Welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, June 12th, 2019. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The President of Ghana, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is on a two-day official visit to SVG as he seeks to further strengthen the diplomatic relations between both countries. The Ghanaian president arrived at the Argyle International Airport at about 10 a.m. today and were involved in a packed program of activities which include a lecture at the SVG Community College, a special sitting of Parliament, and a tree planting exercise at the Botanical Garden. Larissa Pogsley-Kidd tells us more on these activities in this report.
Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo and his delegation were greeted at the Argyle International Airport by a guard of honour led by SVG's Governor-General Sir Frederick Ballantyne. Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves, Opposition Leader Dr. Gordon Friday, members of Parliament, other government officials along with students and members of local African groups were also on hand to welcome the Ghanaian President to SVG. After the welcoming parade at the Argyle International Airport, the Ghanaian President and his delegation were taken to the SVG Community College, where he delivered a public lecture on the historical linkages between Ghana, Africa and the Caribbean. Ghana is this year commemorating 400 years since the first slaves left Africa for the Americas. It was during the lecture that President Akufo-Addo called on Vincentians to visit Ghana and join in the commemoration of the event.
There are a series of events taking place this year which will commemorate that fundamental experience. So I came here to tell you about the year of return, and to invite any of you who are so minded to come and join us in Accra and in Ghana this year.
President Akufo-Addo, who paid a visit to SVG 18 years ago, praised the government for what he termed the transformation that has taken place in SVG since he was last here. He also congratulated SVG on its election to the UN Security Council. President Akufo-Addo said one of his reasons for his visit to SVG is a promised return visit made to Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves, who visited Ghana November last year. The Ghanaian president said the other reason is to further strengthen the diplomatic relations established between SVG and Ghana on August 1, 2008.
I began in my office in Accra as to what we need to do to strengthen economic relations between us. It's important for all of us to recognize that there is a great potential in the relations between those of us in the South, and that the relations of exploitation that we have had systematically with the North can be replaced by fruitful and productive relations between those of us in the South.
President Akufo-Addo later attended a special sitting of Parliament. Prior to the sitting, there was a military band parade where the Ghanaian president was given a gun salute. Inside Parliament, Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves and Leader of the Opposition Dr. Gordon Friday spoke on expectations of further strengthening relations with Ghana.
Of the political economy of a dominant globalized monopoly capitalism induce African and Caribbean peoples to work closer with each other in our own strategic interests. Challenges and opportunities abound. It is against this compelling backdrop that I have proposed the establishment of a permanent ABCD Commission of Africa, Brazil, the Caribbean, and the diaspora of Africans.
What we are doing here today, by strengthening ties that have a deep history, is writing a chapter with a more positive and hopeful story.
President Akufo-Addo thanked the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition for making him feel at home. The President was later expected to visit the Botanical Gardens for a tree planting exercise and participate in a cocktail reception at the official residence of the Prime Minister. Reporting for SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
We will have more on the Ghana's president visit to SVG in tomorrow evening newscast. In other news, the government of SVG is not taking a transactional approach to its membership on the United Nations Security Council. So says Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves at a ceremony held at the Argyle International Airport on Sunday on his return from a meeting of the UN Security Council in New York, where a vote was held on Friday and SVG was successful in its bid for a seat as a non-permanent member on the council after a 10-year campaign. SVG is the smallest island state to occupy a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council and will serve for a period of 2 years commencing January 2020. The Security Council is one of the organs designed to promote and maintain peace and security worldwide. PM Gonsalves said SVG is committed to the fundamental principles of the UN Charter and will do its part to solve issues by peaceful means. Highlighting some of the rules of the UN Charter, PM Gonsalves said it is important for countries like SVG to champion the cause of international laws.
Problems by peaceful means, and no force should be used except as prescribed by the Charter. That is, as a matter of self-defense, or if the Security Council determines that there is a responsibility to protect, that there is an egregious sets of breaches of human rights, that it reaches to a level that the Security Council will sanction some intervention. In other words, we have to be within the framework of international law. Because without international law, our sovereignty and independence means very little, because anybody can bully us. There's the important question of the security consequences arising from climate change, which is an existential question for us.
Responding to some persons who question the benefits to SVG being on the Security Council, PM Gonsalves said the country will not be taking a transactional approach as a non-permanent member, but one which promotes peace in all lands.
I hear people ask the question, what is the benefit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for sitting on the Security Council? Now I want to tell you up front that I am not adopting, and the government is not adopting, a transactional approach. We are not telling you that St. Vincent is going to get money because it's going on the Security Council. That's not the reason. The reason is to be there at the table with a perspective of a small island developing state from the Caribbean, and that by being there we can contribute to peace and security in the world, which will redound to the advantage of all of us, including St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If you have a war in the Middle East, the prices of oil go up, your fuel surcharge goes up, your commodities become more expensive. An example, there are many others.
The Prime Minister further stated that along with promoting peace and security, he looks forward to putting forward SVG's position to see reform in the structure of the UN Security Council.
There are 5 permanent members, the victorious countries after the Second World War, that have a veto power. Each of them has a veto power. That is the nature of the structure. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been looking at the matter of the reform of the Security Council. And we are within many states in the United Nations which are interested in reforming organs of the United Nations, including the Security Council.
Meanwhile, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Camilo Gonzalez, said many countries worldwide face problems such as war, terrorism, migration, and climate change, and SVG will have the opportunity to lend support in solving some of the global issues as a non-permanent member on the UN Security Council. Speaking with SVG-TV News at a cleanup activity at the Brighton Beach on Saturday, Minister Gonzalez said securing a seat on the council is a great diplomatic accomplishment for SVG and the OECS on a whole. He said SVG will be able to bring a fresh perspective to some of the issues which plague many countries today.
It's a boost to our prestige, but most importantly, it brings a perspective to matters of international peace and security. That look, every challenge, you don't have to throw money at it, or you don't have to throw guns at it. Sometimes the perspectives from small islands that have solved some of the ethnic challenges, some of the racial challenges, some of the areas, the fault lines internationally that have caused some of the wars around the world. Islands have answers to some of these challenges, and instead of saying let's send another 100,000 troops or let's spend another $1 billion, we'll say, well, maybe we should talk to one another. Maybe we should sit down and try to resolve this thing peacefully. And the perspective of a small country and an island country is something that is hardly ever present on the Security Council. And we're really optimistic that we can bring a breath of fresh air, a new perspective, and some new solutions to some of the challenges that have been bedeviling us.
The Ministry of Education today issued an advisory through its media unit stating that due to technical challenges with the processing of the data for the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment (CPEA), the Caribbean Examination Council has informed them of a delay in the release of this year's results, which should have been made on or before June 7th. The ministry said the council has given the assurance that it is making every effort to have the quality assurance processes completed within the shortest possible time, and has extended to the ministry an apology for any inconvenience that this delay may cause. The ministry said it will notify all stakeholders as soon as the results become available. The 44th National Fisherman's Day celebration was held on Monday, June 10th at the Kingston Fish Market, which attracted a large crowd. The fisher folk and authorities were satisfied with this year's event, noting the significant contributions of the fishing sector in the country's economic growth. At the prize-giving ceremony, the winners in the various categories of the Fisherman's Day competition received their awards, including the Fisherman of the Year. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd was there and files this report.
Fisherman's Day celebration 2019 started off around 3:30 on Monday morning, June 10th, for some 60 fishermen who participated in the day's fishing competition. The boats started to return to the Kingston port and then to the fish market just after lunch, to a large crowd waiting to purchase fish, which first had to be weighed. While some fishermen were not too pleased with their catch this year due to what they say were harsh conditions at sea, they were happy that all their fish were sold.
I say the water was very challenging today. There was some 3-6 foot swells out there today. About 100 and something people gathered around me one time, so it only took me 5 minutes to sell my 200 pound of fish today.
It wasn't all that good, but then you gotta give God thanks for whatsoever you got.
And in terms of sales, have you sold them already?
Yes, they're gone already. It wasn't enough.
Addressing the fisherfolk at the official prize-giving ceremony, Minister responsible for fisheries, Sabota Caesar, noted the continued progress taking place in the fishing industry and appealed to lending institutions to be more accommodating to fishermen.
But I want to report to the banks and the cooperatives that the fisher folk, they are ready to come for loans so that they can buy trawlers, they can expand their businesses, because as you see taking place throughout the entire country, fisheries and the blue economy is a significant growth area.
Minister Caesar also touched on Calico and Kingstown having separate activities for Fisherman's Day this year and how he felt about it.
I don't want any rift in the fishing community or any fight between the fisher folk, because United we stand, and divided we will fall.
Also addressing the large gathering at the Kingston Market was Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who said that this year's theme is fitting for Fisherman's Day, as it highlights climate change and the effects it has on fisherfolk.
And if we are not careful, we can deplete the fish stocks. And in the case of this region, the one which we have to be very concerned about immediately is the conch. Because if you read it, you will see that in Jamaica, the extent of the conch is declining.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Fisherman's Day Committee 2019, Raul Lewis, said he was overwhelmed by the turnout and noting that the day's activities were pleasing to the fisherfolk.
So happy and so proud to see what happened here today. I was told that this could never happen in Kingston. After 10 years, this is the first time Fisherman Day has been held in Kingston. It took a lot of work, but we made it happen. And I'm happy that all the customers can come out and get fish on a cheaper price.
Over 25,000 cash prizes were presented in 8 different categories for the Fisherman's Day competition. And this year's Fisherman of the Year went to Randolph Medford of Sion Hill, bringing a catch of 470 pounds of fish with his boat Elijah. He won a $10,000 cash prize, 1 case of outboard oil, a trophy, 3 life jackets and 2 cooler bags. A delighted Medford spoke to SVG-TV News about being named as this year's Fisherman's Day winner.
So this competition was nice, real nice. I worked hard whole week and it paid off. Well, bill for my son's future.
This year's heaviest single fish weighed in at 40 pounds. Patrons and vendors say they could not ask for a better location for the Fisherman's Day celebrations. Reporting for SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
Meanwhile, at Calivigny, a fish fest was held to celebrate the fisherfolk in that area. Member of Parliament for East St. George, Camilla Gonsalves, made it clear that the Fisherman's Day activities at Calivigny were not designed to be an alternative to the national celebrations held at Kingston, but part of the wider celebration to celebrate the nation's fisherfolk. Delivering remarks at the ceremony held at the Calivigny playing field on Monday, June 10th, Minister Gonsalves said Calivigny is one of the communities which has a fine fishing tradition and the fisherfolk in the area must be celebrated.
No matter where we have an official Fisherman's Day activity, we have to remember that on Fisherman's Day, we honor fisherfolk all across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We honor the fisherfolk in Barley, in Clare Valley, in Oya, in Beckway, in Kingston, and of course, we honor the fisherfolk right here in Calivigny. This activity is not intended, as Winfield said, to be an alternate Fisherman's Day. But just like on Heroes Day, when you have an event in Dashter Hill, and you have an event in Greg's, and you have an event in Fancy, we believe that on Fisherman's Day, we must honor fisherfolk all across St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Gonsalves said many of the prizes given out at the Calivigny Fish Fest are designed to assist fisherfolk to be more productive and efficient with their trade. The East St. George MP said the marine space possesses tremendous resources which fisherfolk can benefit from, and with the coming on stream of the rainforest seafood processing plant, the Calivigny community will be a shining example of a good livelihood for fisherfolk.
The prizes we give out this year are going to be wire, so you can make more lobster pots. It's going to be support to help you become better and more productive and more efficient fisherfolk. And what we want to say today is that fishing is a career that you can get into for the future. Right here in this area, we are essentially going to double the amount of fish that is caught in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at the Rainforest Seafood Plant. We're going to further enhance with Calfico the work done here in Calivigny. We're going to make fishing a viable livelihood for people all across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This ocean that we have is full of riches. And our brave fishermen and fisherwomen are the ones who go out there and harvest that fish to make us eat a healthy meal, and they are going to be the ones to drive our economy forward.
In other news, SVG joined the global celebration for Ocean Day on Saturday, June 8th, with several activities designed to help protect the natural environment and sensitize persons on the importance of the ocean space. There were several cleanup activities both on the mainland and in the Grenadines. One of the cleanup activities took place at the Brighton Beach. SVG-TV's Bavin Oliver was there and files this report.
Hundreds of persons, including students, community groups, sports teams, and staff of the Sustainable Development Unit, came together on Saturday, June 8th, to conduct one of the largest beach cleanup exercises at Brighton Beach as part of the local activities to celebrate Oceans Day. The Brighton Beach, which was once an excellent recreational spot, over time lost much of its natural appeal to pollution. MP for the area, Camila Gonzalez, was among those taking part in the day's cleanup activity. Minister Gonzalez said the degradation at the Brighton Beach was caused in part by the mining of sand in the area. He said the activity was one of the many strategies to return the beach to its natural beauty, and was delighted by how many young persons came out to support the activity.
First thing we did was we banned the mining of sand here at Brighton Bay, which was a wonderful accomplishment. And then once banned, the people in the community said yes, but the place is a mess. Let's try to restore the beach to its previous condition. Today, I thought World Oceans Day was a good day for us to mobilize some support, and you see we have over 300 people here, adults and children, youth groups, sports teams. It's an overwhelming show of support, and everybody's working hard, everybody's cleaning up, and I couldn't be happier. And the beach is already looking a lot better.
Gonzalez said he believes the cleanup exercise will go a long way in developing a love and appreciation for the natural environment amongst the youth.
If you look around here, about half of the people here are young children. And they will go back home and they will tell their friends that today they cleaned up a beach, and they'll be excited about that. And it gets into the culture that the environment is something that we have to treasure. It gets into the young people's minds that we have to protect our environment, that our coastline is precious, that these gifts that God gave us are precious. And once that gets into their head and they start thinking about cleaning it up, they're thinking about preserving it, the next generation is in good stead. Because the environment is not something you just use and it magically gets restored. We have to treat our gifts with respect and with gratitude.
Located near the Brighton Beach area is a small mangrove swamp. Mangrove swamps are known for maintaining life both on land and in the ocean, and Minister Gonzalez said work is underway to help restore the mangrove plants, as well as plant life in general in the Brighton area.
So what we want to do is to rely on the expertise of the Susgren and the people who are down in Union Island who have some experience in restoring mangrove to come up here to see if they can plant some additional mangroves along there. And then along these dunes here on the beach, there was a lot of sea grape and fat pork that was shoveled away when they were doing sand mining. We want to start to replant that. If you look down at the front of the beach, you'll see that we have donations of a few sea grape trees, a few palm trees, and some fat pork plants. We're going to symbolically plant those today, but then we're going to try to do an extensive restoration, because if we can protect put back the natural protection of the dunes, we think the dunes will start to come back, the vegetation will start to come back, the wildlife will start to come back.
Saturday's activity at the Brighton Beach comes on the heels of a similar cleanup exercise conducted by the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority on Friday at the Big Sands Beach in Sandy Bay. For SVG-TV Evening News, I am Bavin Oliver.
Thank you, Bavin. The police here are investigating the circumstances surrounding the shooting death of Shaquille Ellis, a 23-year-old vendor of Belair Otley Hall, which occurred on Monday, June 10th. The police say Ellis' body was discovered unresponsive in the vicinity of the public bath at Bottom Town, Kingston, with a gunshot wound about 11 p.m. on Monday. He was later pronounced dead. Ellis' death marks the third murder recorded in SVG for the year thus far. The police are seeking the assistance of the public with any information that can lead to the swift investigation and prosecution of this case. Persons with information are asked to contact the officer in charge of the Major Crimes Unit at telephone number 178445-61810. That's 178445-6180. The ACP in charge of crimes at 178445-61339 or any police station.